Good morning.
One, Siobhan, good morning. Hello. Looks like we're collecting a few people still. I'm going to start sharing the screen for our review of chapter 2, and then our movement into chapter 3, difficult emotions and how to be with them, really, how to stay in these difficult, challenging moments. I think that's one of the biggest pieces of work we have in this human incarnation. How not to check out, strike out, um, do the habitual things we do. It's recording when we get distressed, or when we're threatened, or when we get reactive, or when we don't want to feel, I would say, right? Some of the feelings we feel, their unpleasantness, their distress nature. For lots of us, they generate discomfort. We don't like discomfort. We don't like the unpleasant. And we are so habituated humanly, based on that brain stem, that we often, I think, don't even know what we're doing. I don't think we even notice that we're checking out, numbing out, eating too much, overlooking your Facebook too often, whatever, drinking too many martinis, whatever your habit is. And I would say our real habits, by the way, aren't those. I think we have a variety of favorite flavor habits, addictions. I think our real habit is fear, simply, isn't it? Our real habit is simply fear. And then all the amazing stuff we humanly can come up with as ways to try to outrun it, right? Get away from it, shut it down, turn another way. And yes, it's true, folks, it's endless. And so I'm going to share the screen here now that we're getting at 5 after. Good morning, everyone who can join. Remember that we're recording. So even if you can't be here on any one day, know that if you just have to go to Diana Shimkus at YouTube, we have a YouTube channel now. And at that YouTube channel, you will find the recording and the some of the work. I try to send it as best I can when I can remember to everyone. So just know I do my best, but you can always locate it. And so let's talk for a moment, and then Siobhan's going to read a poem that I think Siobhan was so perfect around this idea of addiction. And it's a little long, but it's just luscious. And so I'm going to let Siobhan's poem be our aspiration prayer for today as we get ready to sit, if you don't mind, if Siobhan, that works for you. But I just want to review the questions. And remember, we're always asking, aren't we, these questions? This isn't to ask and answer, right? It's an ask and inquire, asking and inquiring, and then asking again and inquiring again, and asking again and inquiring again. And this is what we do not only in our everyday lives, we do these at times when we know that we are at what I call the precipice of opening, the precipice of discovery, the precipice of not maybe running the other way today. Like, oh, this is it. Let's invite some of these questions. And so here the questions are, just see for yourself where it resonates, what it resonates. And then we'll go on to that beautiful writing about addiction, and then sitting today with a difficult emotion. We're going to practice with that today together. So here's from chapter 2, Real Life Inquiries. What strategies do you typically use to stay away from your pain or distress? Now, these are a little more familiar habits. And everybody knows mine. I've said it a billion times. Caramel corn, something crunchy, salty, sweet. If I'm really bored, if I'm really distressed, I might head for that. Intermittent fasting has, of course, eliminated some of that. And sometimes I still have some, but it's not out of the addictive place. It's out of the, oh, I like this, let me have a little. And so I've been working on that pretty actively. And consequently, the better feeling I have has also been. What's yours? Typical strategy: working too much, drinking too much, sleeping too much, something, too much or too little. Which one of those is that for you? Does it include trying to keep things stable? Not always. For me, it's just trying to get to a pleasant. I'm a greedy monster. So I like pleasant things. I like pleasant yards. I like pleasant words. I like pleasant looks. I like things that are pleasant. I'm a greedy personality in the Buddha family types. And that just means I like to draw towards the pleasant. And I have had enough privilege by virtue of education, profession, and so on to create that. And so my habit is, let me go over here where it's nice, not hang out over here where it ain't so nice. Given circumstances, that might not have been possible. You might just be stuck in a shithole. That's where you are, hard to make it nice. We all have a little of that here, just because we live in San Diego. And so we have to be watchful of how we use all of that, don't we? As an avoiding, denying, rejecting device. Rejecting the realities of what? Distress, pain, confusion, part of our real life. Does it include trying to keep those things stable, secure, comfortable, in my case, pushing away the things you don't want or like? Anger, rejection, judgment, fear, or checking out altogether, as Sharon talked about in chapter 2 for her. She's a delusion type. She just goes numb. And I believe that's contributed, of course, as we now know, to autoimmune issues. She just goes blank, doesn't do anything about it, and it comes to get you in these health-related ways. These typical strategies never work to reduce our suffering, and in fact, actually not only contribute to them, they become the primary problem, right? Our addictive devices become our primary problems. If you think you don't have them, think again, folks. So if you're sitting there going, no, that's not me. I don't drink too much. Me either. I don't work too much. No, not me. You've got your pattern. What is the definition according to Judd Brewer in chapter 2? Continued use despite adverse consequences. Love the truth of this. What do you keep doing, even though there's no evidence that it's working for you? Although, like in my case, it works temporarily. It does work for a breath, a moment, right? It's a path out of, or so it is by appearance. And the truth is, all the outdoors you do aren't going to pay your taxes, are they? Nope. Doesn't mean outdoors isn't wonderful. And it's not the solution to your life. So just watching for that. What strategies do you continue, despite the clear evidence that they are not really working, to address the truth? I'm not going to call it the problem, but the truth of your present moment and its circumstance. What are you doing? A lot of us work, by the way. Lots of us use work. What would it mean if you could come to see your old addictive strategies as ill-fitted attempts to end your own suffering? I actually had another thought. That's Sharon's quote. I actually thought, what if you came to see your addictive strategy as your friend? What if it was your friend's ill-informed, just trying to make things better for you? Because I actually believe that's what it is. I think that's the child mind's best strategy for getting out of this jam that we otherwise can't get out of. This pain, this fear, this family chaos, this drama, this emotional upheaval that otherwise we couldn't begin to attend to. I think of these really old addictive patterns as our fairy godmothers. They were there when nothing else was there. And so if I could eat 5 mayonnaise sandwiches, so what? Best I could do, given that we had bread and mayonnaise, right? Now, could I have done dancing? I suppose if I'd had dancing lessons, but guess what, folks? I didn't, but we hadn't managed to have Wonder Bread and mayonnaise. So there you go, right? Circumstance, along with the truth of suffering, will create the addictive pattern. And it's that dance that we all have to come to appreciate rather than, I think, to condemn. I don't know if we can get close to the heart of the matter otherwise, right? Then you just reject, revolt, rebel, and stay away from the reality. So what if we could see it as a friend that is best, and probably a 5-year-old friend, right? Not a 55-year-old friend. What would your 5-year-old friend say you needed to do about this? Just look the other way. Go over there. Eat this, right? Look up at the sky, something. That's what your 5-year-old friend. So if we could see it as a 5-year-old friend, I think that would put us very close, wouldn't it? And then we could love it rather than go, what a dope. You could go, no, I'm getting you. You're trying to offer me your best. Would it give you a greater possibility for a compassionate or loving response if you could see it, and again, as that young friend, right? And I think the answer is yes. How could you be anything other than like, so there's my 5-year-old friend going, eat some caramel corn. Let's get that. Where can you practice taking a pause? This was some of our work from last week, and creating some space, really, however we can. Somebody who has some breathing issues said, just getting into the breath is wicked for me because it reminds me that I'm struggling. And I said, could you look at the sky? Could that create a sense of space for you? And she said, oh, absolutely. I'd have to walk outside. And I'm like, that might be exactly the right thing to do. But could you get to a sense of spaciousness? And however that is. So if for some people that isn't the breath, let's not condemn either you, the breath. Create that spaciousness, that container for yourself to hold this moment of distress in some kind of loving or compassionate presence. The willingness to turn towards, you've heard me say 100,000 times, is the point. Just that, the willingness not to run the other way, but to turn into the body, into the spaciousness of the sky or the ocean. And in fact, Judd Brewer and others call this very willingness to work with the addictive strategy, urge surfing, rather than just fold into what we always do, the third cup of something we always drink, right? We could pause, create space, and then the truth is right there, you're already doing something different. You're already responding. And you didn't do anything else. You paused and created some space. And we're going to keep working on that today with difficult experience. What do you really need right now? This is a question we're going to ask in the RAIN exercise again today. What would really be a benefit? What could you really offer yourself that would begin to address the reality of the fear, the reality of the pain, or the unpleasant? Well, here's the one answer: some kind of open-heartedness, isn't it? So what is that for you? Some kind of open-heartedness. The pause and the opening, still open-hearted. I'm going to hand myself a flower just to say it's going to be okay. Thich Nhat Hanh says what? Sweetheart, sweetheart, I'm here for you. Right? So what could it be? Anything, a word, an image, an object, and most importantly then, what? Yourself. Yourself. If have not been there, couldn't you then be there with your 5-year-old friend yourself? All right, so that's just some of the inquiries from last week. We'll review chapter 3 this week. I would love it if Siobhan, if you're around, if you could come back on. This is the thing Siobhan sent me called The Root of All Addictions. I'd like you to get ready to sit. And I'll see if I can't find her somewhere. Oh, there you are. Good morning, Siobhan. All the way there in Asheville or nearby, right?
Yeah, nearby, yes.
I can't hear you. I hope others can.
I unmuted myself.
Carrie, maybe you can support Siobhan in getting where we can hear her. We might have you now, Siobhan. Can you say something?
Yeah, she can hear. I can hear.
You can hear her. Okay, I couldn't for some reason. Okay, so let's prepare to sit. We're going to ring the bell right after this. You're just looking for resonance here. You're not trying to remember the words, right, folks? That's not useful. This is a little bit longer. You're simply trying to feel, where does it resonate with you? You're going to actually reside there, place the mind and the breath there as she is reading. And Siobhan, thank you so much.
Yes. And this is a poem by Jeff Foster, who is a meditation, mindfulness, non-dual teacher. He has great poems that always speak to some form of suffering. And this one is called The Root of All Addiction. What is addiction? Addiction is many things, but at its core, it's an escape from uncomfortable or even seemingly unbearable thoughts or feelings or sensations in the body. It is an escape from life. It is a search for love in all the wrong places. It's the inability to be with our pain. It's trying to get safe, using and doing things that aren't actually safe at all. It's an attempt to get out of the present moment and into a different one. It's an attempt to get out of this body and into another version of it. Or rather, it's an attempt to shift our mood, our feelings, our experience using an external thing, relying on something outside ourselves. A substance, a person, an idea, it doesn't matter. Anything to not feel what we feel. Anything to not face what we know we must face. And we are haunted by what we know we must eventually face. Yes, addiction is the experience of being haunted, hounded, hunted. No judgment here. It's important not to judge ourselves. We all do this. We all escape. We all seek. We all run. We are all addicted to something. Some use alcohol, drugs, food. Others use work. Some use rage, control, manipulation. That makes them feel better. Some of us get addicted to other people, their love, their approval, their attention. Some of us get addicted to beliefs, dogmas, religions, gurus, authority figures. Maybe they will save us from ourselves. Some of us get addicted to our own thinking, to fantasies, to futures, or to cleaning the house, washing our hands, ordering the furniture, checking the locks, or making sure everything is perfect. Anything to feel safer, anything to try and manage our anxiety. Anything to not be here now, like this. Addiction takes many forms, but at its core, it is a rejection of the present moment, a flight from now, a deep lack of self-love and self-acceptance. We can't end addiction through willpower alone. Our addiction objects will shift, change, and change shape. We'll shift from a smoking addiction to a gambling addiction, from a food addiction to an addiction to spiritual experiences, from an addiction to a lover to an addiction to a guru, from an addiction to work to an addiction to the gym. In order to heal from addiction, we'll have to face what's inside. No more running, no more turning away. We'll have to face the rage, the grief, the loneliness, the fear, the emptiness inside. Stop trying to fill it, the void. Stop trying to mask it. And maybe we'll come to the very core and we'll touch the thing we've been hiding from our whole lives. And we'll dive into the bleakness and the blackness and we'll find light. We'll lose interest in avoiding the moment and gain interest in touching it. We'll become addicted to presence. We'll fall in love with the wonderful, messy, weird, awkward, powerful, powerless, vulnerable, and sensitive creatures that we are. We'll stop bypassing our humanity. We'll stop masking our authenticity to win love from those who cannot give it. We'll lose interest in being what others want us to be. We'll speak our raw truth and say no when we mean no. We'll come out of hiding and we'll say, here world, here I am, in all my mess, in my power, my weirdness, my shadows, and my light. Here I am.
Thank you so much, Siobhan. Here we are. Finding the way to the body and getting a felt sense of its aliveness, how it has integrated and absorbed the truth of our humanness, of our vulnerability, of our capacities to awaken. And our awakening, our enlightenment, our compassion, our loving presence is only available then, now. Let's rest. Now. Finding that place, that sensation, that area in the body that vibrates the reality of the Dharma. The truth being held right here in this tight or tender spot. And probably both. Find it there in the breathscape. And like our 5-year-old friend, we befriend it. We stop turning the other way, looking for some other experience, some other me, some other moment. And just for this one breath, we can stop our addictive running to the past or the future. creating space with that beautiful intention. Open-hearted, wholehearted presence. And offering that to yourself. Offering yourself to yourself. I like to think of meditation as microdosing, healing ourselves with the medicine of ourselves, our own goodness, our own most wholehearted, loving, and compassionate selves, one breath at a time. Hot or hard or numb, it's all okay. There is that infinite, vast, open, and empty space, empty of all affliction, of all dis-ease, filled with loving kindness and compassion. Breathe it in. This is the medicine. There is no better. With each breath, we extend our hand to that tight spot, that heaviness, that shortened breath, the grip, the ache. And we breathe and we stay. Just for that one breath. And that one breath becomes two in its time. right there in that tight and tender spot, that numb point, that achy place. That's where the 5-year-old friend is. And every time you breathe right there, you touch in and you stay. You're creating space and room and refuge for all the parts. With each breath right into that tender place, we are in recovery. A short breath or a long one, whatever the achy, tight spot, whatever is there, this is the medicine. We are resting then in Buddha nature, the one who is capable, who is caring, who is kind, who knows the truth. There is no other way. And so we stay. And letting that very sensation or constellation of sensations all there, let it invite a particular moment or event. If that comes to mind. And if it doesn't, you could stay right there in the sensation itself. But often the sensations are attached to experience. Do not pick the most difficult. And no one event is coming to mind for me, but this sense of contractedness, this protected heart. And rather than my strategies or my habits for explaining or rationalizing or understanding, coming up with a new storyline. I'm simply going to allow the experience and commit myself. May I have the strength to stay. May I have the love and the care not to abandon, but to touch in, breathe with, and abide, whatever is here. And so we use that RAIN strategy once again. We simply recognize what's here. And for some people, this is called naming. Sometimes we come up with an event, a name, a person, a felt sense. It all counts. And we just recognize what's here. And I just have a felt sense. I'm going to stick with that. There's infinite numbers of events and moments and experiences. They will all flash around. It's fine. Recognize with a compassionate, loving presence the pain, the confusion, the suffering, the distress that's here. And see how close you can get, inviting the attention and the spaciousness, the room, the warmth of the breath. Your very willingness, the gift. And with that recognition, our very willingness to touch in, we can begin to invite that care, that acceptance, rather than convert it, get rid of it, transform it, transcend it. None of this is useful, neither necessary. It is, in fact, this experience itself that is our teacher, our gift. And as we read the given, can we create a little more space and a little more room? Soften the body, let go of the judgments, the chronic condemnation and criticism. Can we and each out breath that we soften rather than contract, a little more allowing. A little more acceptance, a little more opening. And for some of this heartache, this tremoring, this vibration can feel distressing enough that we want to get out of here. And actually, it's the invitation of the 5-year-old friend to stay. And this is when the useful strategies of Thai, we can offer that commitment. Sweetheart, sweetheart, I'm here for you. with each breath, we cultivate the capacity for presence a little bit more. Softening, offering that natural soothing and allowing. The sensations can change. They're often a little bit tricky here. They can disappear, neutralize in one spot and appear in another. It's all fine. And then just keep mindful, present to what's happening right now. The very front of my body is completely numbed. This is likely a habit. And the back is very active. The back of the heart, that hidden place. And just noticing that and creating space and room for that sensation. And along with this openness, along with this caring presence, we can invite a gentle, very, very gentle inquiry. What is this? I just invited an extra long breath. I can feel a little resistance, a little tightening happening. It's workable, of course. And so I'm just trying to create space and room for that very resistance and that very tightening. And that recognition has invited once again the allowing, the acceptance. And then the what is this? Well, I don't want to feel this. But it's already here. It already lives. And along with the what is this, we can invite the what is most needed now. This is the beginning of the inquiry and the end, the nourishing, nurturing an aspect of rain. Is this and what is needed now? What is it trying to tell you? And remember, from that recognition, we can make an offering when appropriate. Again, that just expanded breath, the hands near the part of the body in its activation, near the heart, the back, wherever the pain is or fear is enlivened in the body. We can offer those phrases. May I be free from fear, free from addiction, free from clinging. May allow the ever-flowing reality of sensations to come and go. Holding each compassion and love with wisdom. We're not looking for something in particular. We have to be careful of this. We have little scripts, and then it all magically goes away as one of our scripts, or it turns into bright, beautiful fairy dust. We don't have to create any of that. That's extra work. We can just stay and breathe and make that heart offering when it's available. Recognize, inquire, and nurture. And then we can even grow bigger by remembering the non-self aspect of the N, which is something like this. May I remember that others just like me feel this, know this too. But this is not just your story or your experience or your distress. This is the distress of being alive and human, shared by the multitudes, all those who have come before, all those here, and all those to come. By our very willingness, by our very staying, and by our very moving closer, we are healing not only ourselves, but all beings. Expanding the lens of our attention beyond our own hearts, opening to include the one heart of love, the one heart of compassion. And so that every breath becomes the exchange. Touching our own tenderness, feeling the natural compassion, and sending it out, breathing it out. May I feel for myself and all beings just like me. We feel this too. May each breath heal us all. Breathing in love and compassion, touching the tender heart and sending it out. May we be filled with loving kindness and compassion. And may we be well. Each breath. May we be peaceful and at ease. And may we all be happy. Infusing the heart, the body, the mind, every cell and every pore, every muscle, and every organ with this wish. And then with the out breath, we send it out in all directions. Bringing light, healing. A good medicine. Creating space and room and refuge. In the vast, open, infinite, brilliant, one heart. Breathing in love and breathing it out. That's all. Remembering our true nature, our vast, open, and loving hearts. And that Bodhi heart of all beings. Checking into the body for sure, because there is always a certain residual here. And rather than, again, trying to get rid of anything, can we awaken? Rather than the old shutdown or void or to get rid of mind. So I'm checking in on chat just before we go to the chapter. And Felicia says, I have trouble seeing some of the strategies as a friend. Yes, of course you do, because they are not really necessarily helpful, right, in their addictive nature. No addiction is good for us. There's no such thing. Even the busy, the working, the extra workouts, the whatever it is you think you're doing because it's good for you, it's never true. And by its addictive mind nature, it's damaging, destructive, numbing, disconnecting. And so it isn't like some of our friends are good for us and some aren't. The truth of the addictive quality is that they're all destructive. They're all harming, really. But the intent was not there. The intent was to get me out of this suffering as best I can. And we have to remember its intention, not just its unskillfulness, which is fairly easy to do, isn't it? To condemn the unskillfulness, when in fact it was just 5 years old, doing the best it could, whatever that was. And so can we befriend at least the intention, if not the behavior itself? Because it is true, all the behaviors are ultimately not in the service of our greatest healing and maybe the best we've got, right? Maybe the best we've got. Not that we want to keep that, but that we want to understand it, that it was never there to truly cause our harm. It was there to get us out of suffering as best we could. Siobhan says, I wonder if dissociating from anything unpleasant and repressing it can cause restlessness and anxiety. Absolutely. There's no doubt about that. Has to, right? We can't get rid of what exists, right? There's no truth to that possibility. And so then appear how? Show itself how? Reveal itself how? In the achy neck, in the tight back, in the right, and then the body knows, as Bessel says, right? The body knows the score and is going to live that for us beautifully, perfectly, unpleasantly. So, right? All of that beautifully. And we need to know it. So this is why we, rather than condemn any aspect, we have to say, what is here? What is this trying to tell me? And then how do I attend lovingly, compassionately, kindly to whatever arises? Because we're not getting rid of anything. We're not getting rid of anything. So beautiful. Name of the poet, that was Jeff Foster, that Siobhan wrote, called The Something of Addiction, the Root of Addiction, something like that. I'll pull it back for a second. How do we know when a friendship is more destructive than constructive? Yeah, its intention, I would say, is the start, is the intent to be with, rather than deny, avoid, or repress. Is it there to call up, call out, and be with? Number one. I don't think we can use pleasant, unpleasant as any kind of right rubric for is this really, and then, so for sure it's intention. And then does it live consistent with the truth? I think that's the biggest, is what the truth is being revealed in the friendship. Is the person able to say, I know this is hard, or I know this is scary, right? Honoring the truth of your experience in some way. Or are they just becoming the voice of your own condemning mind? We can often find friends who are familiar for us and not so good for us because we're familiar with the storyline, or we're familiar with the addictive device. We got a lot of co-addicts in our circles. Like, I'll work out too much too. I'll drink with you too. I'll eat all of that with you. And is that a friend? Well, again, they're likely people who are familiar with the habit, and we tend to find each other, I think. And are they trying to harm us? Not necessarily. More likely, that's their own 5-year-old trying to take care of themselves with, as Chris says, miracle weapon too.
It's hard. It's
Uh-huh.
hard sometimes. I have a friend who's a alcoholic,
Yeah.
and it's hard for me to be a part of her life when she's not indulging in that.
When she's not, or when she is.
When she's like, it's hard. I like being with her when she's not indulging in it,
Yes. When
but
she's
it's
not.
just right. But it just gets worse and worse and worse
Yes.
because she doesn't face it. So it's hard for me to decide, okay,
Yes.
is that little part of that friendship
Yes.
is the intention. And I think the intention, now that you say it, is from her heart,
Yes.
but she just cannot get away from her addiction.
I understand.
Yeah.
So my brother is likely has a gambling addiction. We've
Right.
played with that together for many, well, I'm going to say 50 or close to years. And I have decided that I'm no longer going to Vegas with him. That if that means going to the Midwest to visit him or get tickets for him to come out here, but that I'm accidentally a contributor,
That makes sense.
right, to the addictive behavior. And we have had a lot of fun over the years, and we have a lot of good memories, especially when our brother was live, of being there and having a good time. But we have to create other memory. We have to create other realities, other time. And so that's just a thing. And like that with friends who I know have drinking issues. Like, I'm going to serve iced tea, and I'm not going to drink either. That's just like not going to happen because now I'm part of the problem.
Yeah.
My own and the others.
I think I cling to the past.
We all do. The happy moment, the pleasant moment, except there is no joy except for the present.
Right.
The joy is actually in the present. And how do we live that? And by the way, I'm not saying in any way that this is what you have to do, or there's one way to do it. Of course, that's not true. And that my own investigation, both of my habits and the others, and including my habit to want you to be happy, and my habit to want you to get it your way, the way you like. Well, that habit's a habit too. That's another co-addictive behavior. And I have to look at that as well. Right. So that's just the inquiry part. No quick answers. I'm just saying, yep, all that's real in there. And how am I contributing? That's the number one question I can ask myself. And how can I contribute to the end of that suffering? Well, I don't have to drink when I'm around. That's crazy. Because then I have as bigger a problem. I don't have to eat mayonnaise sandwiches. Just you are, right? I can have a salad. I don't, right? These are just continuous inquiries with no one right.
Yeah,
I don't want to come up with a panacea solution because that
no,
would be disregarding, right, the reality.
it's just helpful to think inquiries,
Inquiry,
like for
constant,
myself to examine that.
yeah, and ourselves to examine what we're doing. I think is number
100
one, not what the friend is
100%.
doing. What are we doing? What's the
Yeah.
addictive play out right here called, oh, I'll make you happy. I'll give you a third glass. Sure. No,
Exactly.
because I'm a good host. Really? Maybe not.
Mhm.
Maybe I'm not. Maybe that's not what a good host really is. I don't even really believe that as I say it. And yet,
I do it.
here I am. Have done it.
Yeah.
But I'm recovering every moment, healing every moment, hopefully moving towards wisdom, compassion, and love every moment. Okay, if I can get it today, good news. How many ever other days I didn't get it? Okay, also true, right? Can I be with that? Yeah, I can. It was the best 5-year-old I had,
Mhm.
right? The best 5-year-old I could come up with. I'm going to our chapter now for those of you who have that. I wanted to read this. I think this is the end. I wanted to read the end of chapter 3 first, because I so love this paragraph. It is the last paragraph. And it says page 70, though I don't know if that would be true for you guys. But here's what it says. Through finally meeting our inner experiences with honesty, big one, and love, we may notice a sense of ourselves that is deeper than any story, emotion, thought, history, right? That we may be having. We may notice whether the part that has let go has opened up space for recognizing what has always been here. That's the truth. And once opened, the connection with the presence of this moment, a deeper aspect of who we are, always remains and is then born again, isn't it? Born again. Now, this moment, it is this aspect of ourselves that is innately healing. And this is what we call true nature. Always present, always available, even in the midst of the addictive device. And we have to remember that we are not simply our mayonnaise moments, are we? We are not. It is not true. And yet we can define ourselves simply by, right? What? This is all I am. This is my brother's only a gambler. Is it true? It is, of course, not true. And this can also be an aspect of his own fear, his own pain, his own vulnerability, his own humanness. And will it be useful for me to reject it? No. Will it be useful for me to feed that addictive device? No. No. And so then it becomes bigger. The possibilities loom large. Let's go to chapter 3 here. Being with difficult feelings. Of course, we did the rain again today, as well as a little bit of our self-compassion practice, didn't we? They're very interconnected and related. That's what naturally arises, by the way, from the rain. How do I care for this now that I am here? And compassion arising naturally, almost effortlessly in its time. But we also have some addictive habits here to judge, condemn, reject, shut down. And we can even be compassionate, can't we, towards and for those. Can't we? Our very ways of trying to get out of our suffering. We can be compassionate rather than rejecting of those. She tells a story, Sharon, of one of her chaplain friends who says, I'm not really here to keep you from this experience. I'm here to be with you while you're freaking out, while you're in it. Isn't it the truth? Isn't that our instruction? Here to be with, right in the middle of the, thank you so much, sweetie, of the storyline, right? Right in the middle of the addiction. right in the middle. Someone says, nope, okay, I'm going to be here with you, right in the middle. Doesn't even try to talk you right out of it, right? I can be here. If you can't do that first, do not take what I think of as an intervention, because you're taking the intervention out of condemning. You're right. And we understand that all intervention has to come from love. If it's out of judgment, condemnation, or criticism, don't do it. Don't do it. You're doing something for you. You're not really doing something for the other at all. And then do it for you. Say, you know, I can't be there. That's not going to work for me. It's okay. But it's out of the love for my brother that I'm saying it, not because I'm judging his gambling. It's a very different place, isn't it? Very different heart mind. It has to be the one that is expanded, not the one that is contracted. And check in on that first, because if you're in contraction, don't act from that. That will cause additional harm and a greater addictive potential, and it might be yours. That might be your addictive device to go, I'm going to reject all those others out there doing their stuff. Won't be helpful. I love the concept of the ministry of presence, which simply means the refuge, the wide open, vast space of holding another and ourselves, because we have to know, just like me, I have my mayonnaise sandwich addictive device. You have your gambling device. Can I hold us both? And if I'm just holding you, I'd be careful too, because I think that's a lot easier to fix, called the other, than fix the mayonnaise sandwich eater in me, right? Very easy. Let me get over there, fix that thing in you, because then we'll all be better. No. If you don't know it in you too, don't act again. If you can't acknowledge your own addictive device, be watchful of that. She talks about healing modalities and that mindfulness meditation is designed really essentially as this, a ministry of presence for ourselves and then ultimately for others. We cannot relate differently to the pain of others until we acknowledge the pain in ourselves. Again, stop being a fixer. That's an addiction. That's an addiction, being a fixer. I think I saw something here. Chris, you seem to have a Mayo theme running. I will buy you a case. No, don't do that, Chris. That puts you in that co-addict spot. What you can do is recognize that in you. Where is it in you? The addicted empath. Chris, I see it up here. You named it well. Right? I can fix you easier than fixing me. And really, the beautiful work is recognizing the beauty of you, the value of you, the worthiness of you to fix you. Right? And then naturally, we naturally fix others from that clarity, from that compassion, that really limited heart. We affect change by profoundly transforming the environment the pain is held in. That is ourselves and our own bodies. Can I make contact with that? And again, practice that breath of compassion, that staying. It's big work. Are empaths considered caregivers? Yeah, they often move into those roles. It's a role of getting away from our own distress very commonly, and to others. If I can fix you, then I can be okay, is the anthem of the empath. If I can fix you, then I can be okay. The anthem of the empath. And actually a little backwards, right? But we're all working on it, right? Let's go on. I gotta move this, sorry folks. By surrounding it with space, that's what we did today, right? Just creating a little space for the experience. And then inviting not only awareness, remember that's our mindfulness, but we have to invite a certain kind of care a certain kind of curiosity, a certain kind of willingness, I call it. If you are just looking at it, it is not sufficient. If you are not bringing your biggest heart to it, I would say all the truth in all the world will not go well if you are not able to hold the truth in some kind of compassionate, loving presence. Again, like that 5-year-old, I would say. The introspection of meditation started allowing me to uncover the strands of that pain. This was Sharon's own story. And of course, then she goes into Goenka, who is a beautiful teacher of Vipassana tradition, and says, kind of blames the practice and then blames him, right, for her anger, because she was starting to make contact with it. She was no longer quite so numb, no longer quite so disconnected, and went, this is really because of you. I did exactly the same with Joko. There's something stupid about you, because I'm starting to see all these judgments that I don't want to see, both towards myself and towards others. And I decided it was the practice's fault, because if it had really worked, it would have got me out of suffering. And in fact, it did. And in fact, it did. None of the path I wanted. I just wanted an escape, and it did not offer that. Practice looking directly at difficult feelings, and practice having equanimity or peace of mind toward them. This is a big order. How does it happen? One breath at a time. How many breaths can I be with this? Maybe a half. Maybe I can create the space and then I run anyway. Maybe I get 3 breaths in and go, I don't know, this is shaky territory. I got to go for a while. It all counts, because the intention itself is the engine. And then you cultivate skills slowly over time from there. And so did I feel the shaky tenderness? Yes. Did I decide it would be better not to ruin my 42nd wedding anniversary today with that? I thought, this may not be the best day, but there is no better day than this day for an open heart, right? However shaky or tender, it is not the only heart here. The one that is holding it is also here. Can we remember that? Because we get a little lost in there. Only this, I am only the shaky, I'm only the pained, I'm only the traumatized, I'm only the broken. Not true, not ever true, even if you don't yet know that. It is not true, so be watchful. She gives some examples of hindrances and the strategies that we typically use: shame, self-judgment, fear, over-identification, I'm only this, or right, I'm essentially flawed and fucked up, and isolation, just that shutdown. These habits cluttered up the available space in her heart and mind. They do in all of ours. And just recognizing them is the beginning of the path. And then feeling for them as our 5-year-old friends is the other. And we do both. She says these add-ons, recognizing the add-ons, shame and fear, can be helpful as we're making contact with difficult emotions or feelings. It's exactly right. Usually one or both is present. Usually one or both. If not shame directly, judging it is always there. And I think that judging is one of the arms of shame, actually. Just one of the tentacles, but I think it's there. Like, this is horrible, this is wrong, this is bad, this makes me weak, this makes me pathetic. I think there's shame under that, all those judging. So we can notice our judgment itself, I think, is a skillful approach. And then she goes on to say, just noticing them and not having to bring them to the party. Can we bring a little more open space without those add-ons, without that storyline coming along? And then she talks about the rain, which we did today. as the essential method for the ministry of presence. And then I have a question here. What emotion, experience, or person could benefit from your ministry of presence? What emotion, experience, or person could benefit from your ministry of presence? And I guess the follow-up is, how might you offer that? How might you then live that? Presence. It is important to challenge the habit of consolidating our emotional experience. What that really means is taking it on as all that we are, right? Or projecting that onto others. That's another tendency. Projecting what we are feeling into the next 2 or 10 years. I think we do it more automatically by projecting it onto other people as well, which is, I'm worried about your addiction, which gives me a lot of space not to look at mine. Right. And I think that projection is something we've got to really look at. I think our tendencies are pretty big there. If you're complaining about something in another, look at that quality. May not be the same addictive device, but look at yours. And your addictive device, as I was saying to Robin, might easily be, I feel like I have to fix this, or I feel like I have to serve you the drink anyway. That's my addictive device, is I'm just trying to make you happy, even if you kill yourself with it. Well, that might be that co-addictive pattern. That's really where the work is. Whether that person's drinking or not drinking, you will not have necessarily complete authority, right? This dissipates a great deal of the strength and confidence we could be feeling by agglomerating, a word I do not know, the minute feelings of the moment, I guess glomming, right, into a monumental, lifelong big deal. Rather than seeing it as a moment in time with its appearance, not solidifying it either as your identity or as the identity of the other, meaning, is my brother only a gambler? Well, of course he isn't. He's infinite numbers of really amazing things. But once we get into that pattern, it's very easy to go, you the addict, me the fixer. You the pathetic one, me the healer. And it's dangerous. And it's dangerous. Sharon goes on to say, we can do anything with the most difficult, the greatest grief, the greatest pains, the greatest traumas, one breath, one moment at a time. And it is true. And that's just her offer. Shaking Hands with Our Beautiful Monsters by, I think it was Zonkney. Who offered this. This is the same as Serving Tea to Mara. We've talked about that story, which is invite Mara to tea. Mara is sort of the devil, the evil, all the addictive behaviors. It doesn't mean go into the addiction with it. It means recognize. And rather than try to reject it, can we invite it into awareness, into presence, into the ministry of presence? Not that we just fall or collapse into the addictive behavior. So when we say invite it in, it doesn't mean that I'm falling. It's the opposite. I am waking up to it rather than falling into the addictive device. She gives us 4 ways for handshaking with the beautiful monsters. Soften and allow. We did that a little bit today. Stay grounded, present to the body, if you can. Be with yourself, with kindness, with curiosity, with compassion. And listen and welcome. Give our full attention. But again, listening does not mean falling into the story. It means hearing the pain, hearing the distress, and then responding to that, not to, oh, sure, I'll have a drink with you. That may not be the right thing. Expansiveness, spaciousness, that creating room, that true nature of ours allows options for going forward compassionately and wisely. Oh, I had another question here. Let me see what it was. Can you recognize an experience that you have been rejecting and offer it kindness, space, and love? What is it? What does this feel like? What is the effect of this nurturing response rather than reject or push away? Rather than reject it, shut it down, can you open? And what does that feel like? We did that practice today. What did it feel like when we opened into the distressing sensation, thought, or emotion rather than just collapse into the addiction? Being with difficult feelings with spaciousness, that's that extra room, our true Buddha nature, awareness itself, we could say, or loving presence, the ministry, right, of our love. We would benefit from placing our attention elsewhere, someplace that soothes or nourishes us. We have to be careful, though, because often we can pick another addictive device, right? So I don't like, all right, I see this one arising. Well, what I can do now is do this one. And it ends up being what we call secondary addictive, called now working too much, or right, doing something else. And we have to be watchful. Can it truly be nourishing? Which means it's truly going to offer you the path to seeing clearly what's really here, the pain that's really here. Sometimes we feel we sorely lack perspective. We need to get outside and look up at the sky or touch a tree. Those were some of the additional grounding tools. We can also learn to employ diverse frameworks that help us view our experience from different angles. She's talking here about her own religious background, and then making contact with this concept. This woman held the concept of God's will as a tether, and maybe even as a flak jacket against her pain. It's God's will. I have heard this a lot, actually, people going, oh, what do you do? God's will, as a way of shutting it down or pushing it away. And Sharon says, there was this moment of opening where this woman could say, oh, it's not that I am failed in my faith. It's not that either that God has failed me. It is my nervous system, because she understood something about the realities of trauma. And I think I wrote another little note here. What pain, judgment, or aversion may you be adding to your own experience? What little philosophies, perspectives, dogma, we call that, are you adding to your experience? What's the dogma of your own mind? This is one of my aversions to that phrase, it is what it is. I feel like people use that as a way of shutting down the reality of their distress, so they can just go, what do you do? And doesn't create room or space for inquiry, for holding it, right, and off we go. So be watchful. That's a dogma. That's a cliche, right? That we just paste on to experience as a way of getting away from it. What are you doing? What's your philosophy? Everyone dies anyway? May not make real connection with the truth of that, right? Be watchful. What are your philosophies? What do you hang on to as ways for explaining away and disconnecting from your experience? The woman said, what am I supposed to do then? Love my shame? To Sharon. And what did Sharon say? No, you don't have to love the shame, right? The shame is the shame. But can we be present to the pain that created it? Can we be present then? Right? We don't have to love the addiction, but can we love the tender heart just beneath it? And remember who we really are. We are not just that. No matter how big the shame, We are not just that, no matter how big the addictive device. We are also that which can hold it. And that is our practice. Is there such a thing as love that is not unconditional? When, where, and how does this occur? What's your philosophy of love? How do you use it? Because I think we're also somewhat addicted to that. What do we believe about love? That it cures all ills? That it's not enough? Just think about that for yourself, because we all have some thoughts about that. I'll write that in the homework. What is your philosophy and your dogma around love? Love should always work. Love should be enough. What's your storyline there? Sharon also tells a little story about Sayadaw Pandita, a very beautiful monk who said, she said, I cry a little. And he goes, you shouldn't cry a little, cry, right? Like the skies are breaking open. Cry out every time. Get the real release from the truth of those tears. And she was frequently awakened. What would you cry about if you were going to allow those tears? What is something you've needed to cry about that you have shut down, resisted, or separated from? What is it? Go on. Dan Siegel's window of tolerance. We're already past time, aren't we? I think we'll stop here. That window of tolerance is that place we can abide without falling into hyper or hypo arousal, just shutting down altogether or going into overactive mode. And that window of tolerance, the larger that is, the healthier we are. And we call that psychological flexibility, by the way. I can handle this without getting tumbled into one of those fight or flight strategies. Look for where your window of tolerance is this week. Where is it? Like, I've got this, right? I'm okay. I'm stable. I have equanimity. I can hold on to this here. And the other place where not anymore. Lost it. I'm tipped. I'm in hypo or hyper, fight or flight now. And seeing where our window of tolerance is can tell us a lot about what we need. We need resources, probably, at those edges, right? We probably need rest, food, supports, and we don't get them for ourselves. Guess why? Our addictive devices are likely present here. I can just dead walk this thing. Well, that's an addictive device. No, you can't. It has consequences. And then we notice we're now in reactivity or we are in shutdown, right? Watching where your window of tolerance is will tell you about your addictive strategies as well. Do you power through no matter what? Do you collapse? Do you get hurt? Do you get busy? Do you go for an extra ice cream? What are you doing? What are you doing? And so we'll stop here and pick up right from here, which is page 62. Don't know if that's true for you guys. Window of tolerance, we'll start there next week. I will put these inquiries into a document and then we'll review them at the beginning of next week. Next week is Carrie will not be here, so I'm going to try to be navigating getting people in and we'll see how it goes. I will promise to do my best. If there's anybody who's familiar with Zoom who would like to support that effort, just let me know. And also today, before we go, today is our last day for contributing to St. Andrew's Food Pantry. If you have not dropped food off to Carrie, send something to EMC-giving on encinitasmindfulness.org or send me a Venmo. We are going to be going shopping actually right now because I got busy yesterday, was not able to do it. So today's the day and it will get delivered to Carrie. today. Greg will pick it up tomorrow. This is our every other month contribution to our friends in need. So let's.
What's your Venmo?
Venmo is Dial Titan, DIALTYTAN, under my name. I'm the only one, I think, so far on Venmo. You should be able to locate me, and we're heading out there soon. So anybody who wants to make a contribution.
What is that again, Diana?
It is D as in DIAL, Tyler, TY, Tanner, TAN. So it looks like Dial Titan with a Y. You will find me there. And thank you all so much. I appreciate your generosity, your kindness, and your commitment to the care and well-being of others. And appreciate that very much. Thank you all so much. Have a wonderful day. It looks like it might get a little bit sunny out there. I'm looking forward to that, and look forward to seeing you on Thursday with Greg at 7, or in the garden this Saturday at 7:30. Hope you can join us. It's been lovely out here, and hope you get a chance to come be with us too. Blessings to you all. And love to you.
Greg is not picking up food from Sherry's until tomorrow.